What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. The Kremlin tries to make everyone believe that its war-driven economy is an unbreakable juggernaut, resilient, growing, and on the rise, despite all the sanctions, restrictions, and limited trade. But a freshly released side report, Stockholm Institute of Transition Economics, prepared for a 10th gathering of European finance minister, rips that narrative to complete shreds. You simply cannot trick the numbers never lie. Behind the facade of alleged 4.3% GDP growth in 2024 and boastful Kremlin press releases, lies a house of cards built on quicksand, questionable funding sources, sky-high military spending, and a banking sector edging on collapse. The Central Bank of Russia is fuming with rage, as they can barely do anything, because Putin is the one calling the shots. Vladimir Vladimirovich, the economy is in distress. We gotta do something and do it fast. He replies, what are you talking about? The economy is doing just fine. Look at these numbers Gerasimov gave me. It's all green and there's a bunch of plus signs. But wait a second, isn't Gerasimov a military person who has nothing to do with economics? That's not for you to ask. Do your job, crunch some numbers, and stop being such a nerd, jeez. That's the interaction I see myself between Putin and some financial wizards of Russia. But anyways, every Western sanction, every tightened tariff, all of it is supposed to squeeze Russia's war chest, yet Moscow still shrugs them off. The question is how? By manipulating statistics, hiding deficits in shell companies, and leaning on shadow banks. And meanwhile, ordinary Russians feel the pinch. Skyrocketing interest rates, vanishing job prospects, and the constant hum of conscription ads promising riches that disappear then obviously in the small print. Also, a very quick update. One of the first direct talks in Turkey between Russia and Ukraine finished midday this past Friday. Reportedly, they did not last even 2 hours. No apparent progress has been made, no ceasefire, just a deal to swap hundreds of POWs. Russia urged Ukraine to withdraw from 4 currently occupied territories, and Ukraine asked for Putin and Zelensky direct talks. Both sides refused these proposals. Though follow-up talks have been already allegedly agreed upon in the near future. And well, there you go, a very brief update about the current peace talks situation, and I did not even need to make a 20 minutes long video about it. If you liked this short summary of another topic, please let me know down below in the comments, and I might implement this idea in my future videos as well. Please also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more summaries like this. And now, back to the original topic of the video, the failing Russian economy. Russia's stability is the greatest magic show in modern geopolitics. On TV, pipelines roar, factories hum, and generals flash medals. Backstage, though, it is a complete madhouse. Billions flow from the treasury into classified offshore funds. Budget deficits balloon in hidden password-protected spreadsheets. And resource allocations skew significantly towards weapons production. According to the very same site report, the short-term fiscal injections have merely kept the economy afloat, like tossing a life vest into a sinking ship without patching the holes first. Ask yourself, would you trust an enterprise that lists phantom assets, buries its debt in offshore accounts, and routinely funnels cash through banks that refuse independent audits? Of course no. Yet that is exactly how Moscow fuels its war machine, by shrouding every transaction in secrecy and intimidation. Is there an end to such kind of strategy? Well, of course there is. But since Putin will never officially acknowledge that the Russian economy is struggling, the downfall will most certainly come very unexpected. What's worse, shrinking fiscal buffers mean there is no rainy day fund left for schools, hospitals or pensions. Instead of investing in a future beyond forced conscription, the government pours every single available ruble into artillery shells and drone factories. And meanwhile, the public is fed a diet of triumphant headlines proclaiming growth, resilience, and their favorite things well under control. While the retail sector cracks under inflationary pressure and small businesses completely collapse. It is a grotesque shell game: shift liabilities into state-owned banks, inflate GDP by underestimating the inflation, and then show whatever results this artificial influx yields as proof that sanctions do not work. But beneath the veneer of official numbers lies a staggering truth. Russia's so-called war economy is a ticking time bomb, and no amount of patriotic fanfare can ever disarm it. Celebrating the capture of Luhansk and Donetsk will not bring billions of rubles into the budget out of thin air. If anything, this will cost the regime of Putin billions of rubles. And assuming he fulfills his promise to liberate and then restore these regions, the financial damage will be even more incomprehensible. Moscow's claims that inflation hovers at a manageable 9-10% is, to say the least, laughable when the central bank slaps a 21% key interest rate. That's an 11-point premium that makes every ruble you have stashed away worth less by literally every single minute. According to Economics 101, by the way, a very simple calculation yields us approximate more real inflation in Russia to be somewhere around 30%. And that is even the conservative estimation. Some people say it's 40% plus. But let's go along with the official statistics for once, shall we? Smart finance people in Europe also saw very troubling signs of Russian economy being in distress. The director of Stockholm Institute for Transition Economics, Torbjörn Becker's blunt assessment to European ministers was very straight to the point. Understate inflation, overstate real GDP, and voila, you manufacture an artificial economic miracle. In practice, this translates to pensioners watching their nest eggs evaporate and young entrepreneurs finding doors slammed shut when they seek loans. Banks flooded with capital intended for tank production have no interest in funding startups and mortgages. Why give away several million rubles to a young family, first-time home buyers, trying to find their dream apartment, when you can simply sponsor the production of 2,000 drones with guaranteed return on your investment, guaranteed by the government itself? The result? A generation losing faith in tomorrow while the regime spins tales of national resurgence. Imagine a baker in Novosibirsk forced to raise bread prices because grain shipments incur hidden so-called war surcharges. Then picture taxi drivers in, Vladivostok, watching gas prices spike unpredictably and invisible tax siphoned straight into the defense budget. These are the everyday realities masked by Kremlin's press conferences. Ordinary Russians ask, why pay 21% to park our savings when the government promises growth? The answer is that the government's priorities lie not in the livelihoods, but in the conquest. And every ruble funneled to the front lines is a ruble stolen from the very same school books, hospitals, and the future stability of the entire nation. It is a very cruel inversion. The harder people work, the more they are pushed into debt, all while being told they are living through the triumphant economic revival. At first glance, Russia's reported budget deficit, around 2% of GDP annually since February 2022, does not seem catastrophic, kinda. Yet, those figures are as reliable as, fair trial in a Russian court. You know what I mean, right? Becker's deep dive uncovered hidden lending through the banking system that effectively doubles the real deficit. Think of it as a family that tells the world it owes $1,000 while stashing $2,000 in maxed out credit cards. On paper, the debt is yes, $1,000, but in reality it is $3,000, maybe even more than that. So when creditors inevitably come knocking, there is no legal protection left, just the stark reality of an empire overextended and desperate for cash. And as some of you might know, the financial problems snowball very quickly, especially on the size of an entire nation. If the phenomena already discovered that it exists, it means that those problems are not single-case things anymore. It means that it exists throughout all layers of society, in every city, town and settlement. And this balloon of problems just waits for a trigger to be popped. That desperation is recorded on bank balance sheets as war loans. Nothing specific, nothing about the type of loan, who got it, when it's due, nothing. Just a war loan. State-backed financial institutions like Sberbank and VTB have been ordered to underwrite munition factories and drone startups, while regular businesses just beg for crumbs. Whatever is left, just give it us something. High credit growth in one sector and freeze-ups in all the others sets classic warning signs of a coming banking crisis. Depositors already whisper about hidden withdrawals, shifting assets into foreign currencies or risky cryptocurrencies, just to preserve the value. And meanwhile, the central bank's governance ensures that these warning signs never see the daylight. Do they sound the alarm? Absolutely. Does Putin listen to them? Well, not in a million years. Instead, he tells them to ignore the obvious facts and pretend like everything is flowers, rainbows and unicorns. While in reality, one misstep, be it a collapse in oil prices, a new sanction choke point, or even a sudden political purge, and this could trigger a run on the banks. People will no longer care about glorious liberation of Chasiv Yar, but they will care about taking their money out of a failing bank so they can make their own next month's mortgage payments and buy groceries on Saturday. The banks will obviously do everything possible to limit or even prohibit such withdrawals. And when this happens, it will not be generals or oligarchs left holding the bill. It will be ordinary citizens waking to empty bank accounts and temporary or even permanently closed branches. 17 sanction packages later, and Putin still smiles. On paper, Brussels has targeted oil and gas exports, shadow tankers, dual-use technology, subsea cable saboteurs, and human rights violators. But in practice, it's like trying to stop a fire hose with a single finger. Like, it just will not work. The Kremlin reroutes sanctioned shipments through shell companies in third countries, launders payments through crypto exchanges, and sweet-talks European members into softening enforcement. Hungary's stubborn refusal to join the latest energy ban, Italy's complaints about soaring electricity costs, and Germany's internal debates over gas contracts, all of this gives Moscow the breathing room it so desperately needs. But enter now France's foreign minister, Jean-Noël Barrot, brandishing the 17th package as it was a medieval mace. He talks of 500% tariffs on Russian oil, expanded financial restrictions, and choking of hybrid threats. But the question is, can 27 fractured European voices really deliver? Meanwhile, whispers in Brussels corridors hint at even more drastic measures. Outright bans on Russian bank access, embargoes on critical semiconductor exports, and government-backed insurance policies to underwrite firms that avoid Moscow. Yet nothing moves forward until every capital signs off. A process unfortunately slower than, watching a paint dry. Across the Atlantic, the US lawmakers draft crippling measures. Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, proposed 500% oil tariff bill for when President Trump might finally take them seriously. But even the threat of such a law gives Russian exporters pause, scrambling to lock in long-term contracts at discounted current rates, secure then also private loans from friendly autocrats, and diversify away from the Western financial instruments. For every sanction slapped on the table, the Kremlin comes up with half a dozen workarounds. And while Brussels squabbles over legal loopholes and vote tallies, Russia's war economy keeps going on, fueled by the very resilience its propagandists so happily promote. But when the foundation is empty, and when your supposedly concrete walls are hollow inside, for how long the entire construction will stand? The regime of Putin keeps building upward, using cheaper and cheaper materials with each floor. And at some point, carton ceilings will no longer be able to hold this entire weight. Well, there you have it, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Don't forget, on Monday we have another episode of Thank God It's Monday podcast, and the guest is extremely requested person by you guys. He will also be talking about the economics if you enjoy this topic. I'm sure 100% you're gonna enjoy this episode. It's gonna be probably one of the best ones. Once again, if you don't want to miss it, please subscribe to my channel. If you also want to support my work, there are links down below. Thanks so much for watching, happy weekends, and see you on Monday.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through way. We do not believe in